What's up guys, and welcome to a fascinating comparison between the brand new OnePlus 5T and the iPhone X. And what makes this so interesting? Whilst the iPhone X can be had for an eye-watering price of $1,000 US, the OnePlus 5T of the same capacity can be had for $480. Bear in mind, this is by no means my full review. My opinions of the OnePlus 5T will take a few more days to come out as I start to fully test the device and really get to know it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we've got loads more OnePlus 5T coverage coming soon and a special giveaway in December. Let's get right into it. Probably the first observation you're going to have when you take the OnePlus 5T out the box is that it is larger in every dimension compared to the OnePlus 5. It is wider, taller, and heavier than that smartphone. But how does it compare to the 10? As you can probably tell, the 5T has a larger footprint than the iPhone X as well, in both directions. However, it manages to do this while still being slimmer and lighter. And a big part of this is due to the materials on offer. Whilst the iPhone X is covered front and back in glass, and then the sides all round in stainless steel, the OnePlus 5T is made of a much lighter anodized aluminium. The glass surrounding the iPhone X feels solid and premium, but it does attract a lot more fingerprints than the soft touch finish on the OnePlus 5T, which has more or less been copied and pasted from the OnePlus 5. And for most people that's going to be a good thing. Whilst the iPhone X has managed to get an IP67 water and dust resistance rating, the OnePlus 5T still is without certification. Now that's not to say every time a bit of water touches this phone it's going to stop working, because actually when the OnePlus 5 came out, similarly that had no certification either. But upon a lot of testing, most people found it to have a similar resistance to every phone carrying an IP67 rating. So whilst it's not technically certified, I would expect some resistance against water and dust. Looking at the specification sheet though, one obvious omission from the OnePlus 5T is wireless charging. And this is all but a standard in all top tier flagship phones, and the iPhone X does support it, which is good. And then we have these two vastly different authentication methods. Whilst the OnePlus 5 has its fingerprint scanner on the rear, which has been moved from the front of the phone as it was on the OnePlus 5, just to fit that larger display in, the iPhone X has its proprietary Face ID technology. For the most part, Face ID is brilliant. It is actually just as fast as most phones and their fingerprint scanners, but at the same time it's a lot more convenient. All you need to do is to lift your phone up towards your face, and most of the time, by the time it's halfway there, it'll already be unlocked. Even though traditionally face scanners are a little bit slower than fingerprint scanners, Face ID on the iPhone X can have you unlocked and on the home screen in 0.15 seconds. And that compares to the fingerprint scanner we saw on the OnePlus 5, which is the same one on the OnePlus 5T, to which you could expect around 0.17. As a bit of a disadvantage to the iPhone X though, whilst face scanning is almost definitely the future of authentication, it feels like a bit of a first-gen product here. In some harsh indoor lighting conditions, it'll constantly fail. And because the phone has no option for a fingerprint scanner, then you do have to manually enter a password. Whereas with a fingerprint scanner, you can be reassured that it's going to work in almost every condition. Interestingly, the 5T is the first time OnePlus has introduced a face scanner into their phones. And whilst it won't be as fast or as secure as a fingerprint scanner here, it is nice to have the option. And this brings us onto displays. Whereas the iPhone X has a 5.8-inch 1125 by 2436 display, the one on the OnePlus 5T is a 6-inch 1080 by 2160 panel. That makes the iPhone the far sharper display, and whilst both of these devices have AMOLED panels built into them, the iPhone X supports HDR10 and 3D Touch, neither of which the 5T has. The 5T has a pretty good 80.5% screen-to-body ratio on the front, but that compares to the iPhone X's 82.9, which sounds like a small difference, but it's instantly noticeable, and this puts the iPhone X in the Hall of Fame of the current top devices in terms of this statistic. And whilst the OnePlus 5T sports Gorilla Glass 5 covering the front of the phone, which is good, the iPhone X has yet again one-upped it. When Apple was building this phone, they worked directly with Corning, who is the manufacturer of this glass, to build what they dub as the most durable glass ever seen on a smartphone. So when you look at these display statistics side by side, it would be very easy to say, wait a sec, the OnePlus 5T has just been blitzed. But actually when you consider that this phone is less than half the price of the iPhone X, and that both of these are gorgeous, bright and colourful panels that, to be honest, side by side a lot of people would not be able to tell the difference between, it's very hard to discredit the 5Ts. One area in which the X is instantly and noticeably better though is in terms of audio performance. Whilst the 5T, just like the 5, has a single downwards firing speaker, the iPhone X has a dual stereo speaker arrangement. It uses the downwards firing speaker to handle a lot of the bass, and an upwards firing earpiece to handle a lot of the treble. And when combined together, you get a really immersive experience here. But then we flick over to battery, and this plays to the 5T's favour. Whilst the iPhone X is stuck with just over 2,700 mAh, the OnePlus 5T has 3,300. Now, whilst the 5T is not likely to last as long as the 5 because it's got the same capacity battery, but just a larger display, if OnePlus is past optimizations or anything to go by, it should still last a good 15 to 20% longer than the iPhone X. But I will be doing a detailed battery comparison, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Another thing worth mentioning though on the subject of battery is that whilst the OnePlus 5T within the box has the 20-watt dash charger built in, the iPhone X comes with Apple's 5-watt charger. So Apple doesn't bundle in, even with the $1,000 iPhone X, a fast charger, which means that on a day-to-day basis you'll be looking at about a 3-hour charge time on this device, whereas it'll be much shorter on the 5T. Let's talk about camera. And whilst the iPhone X on the front has a 7-megapixel f2.2 sensor, the OnePlus 5T has a 16-megapixel f2.0. So on paper, that is going to be far better. Now, Apple does offer a portrait mode on the front of the phone, similar to what we've seen on the Pixel 2 and the Pixel 2 XL, but unfortunately, so far from my testing and from what I've heard from the general community, this is not a runaway success story. The rear cameras is where it gets really interesting. You might notice holding the 5T side by side with the 5 that OnePlus has significantly enlarged the camera bump. And the reason for this is that one of these sensors has been changed. While the primary camera on the OnePlus 5T is exactly the same as that of the OnePlus 5, the secondary f2.6 telephoto lens on the 5 has been swapped out for an f1.7 fixed lens. So that leaves the 5T with a dual f1.7 setup, compared to the iPhone X's f1.8 and f2.4. And don't forget, lower is better when it comes to aperture. Not to mention, whilst the iPhone X has a dual 12-megapixel camera here, the resolution on the OnePlus 5T's cameras are 16 and 20 respectively. Unfortunately, I wish it was, but it is not as simple as just looking at megapixel count and aperture. There are so many elements that make up a good phone camera. But we will do a camera test of both of these two phones side by side, and I will get back to you on which one is truly the winner. But on paper, the 5T is looking very encouraging. That leaves us with operating system. Whilst the iPhone X runs on Apple's brand new iOS 11, the 5T unfortunately is not running the latest and greatest Android. It is still stuck on Oxygen OS based off Android 7.1. Whilst there are some drastic differences between what these two operating systems offer, that is a topic for another video. And if you are considering one of these two devices, you probably are aware what you're getting yourself into. So guys, that is the comparison. That is the OnePlus 5T versus the iPhone X. Let me know in the comments below what other comparisons you want to see. Whether you want to see more battery tests, whether you want to see more camera tests, let me know and I will do my absolute best to get that sorted for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we've got loads more OnePlus 5T coverage coming, as well as a giveaway in December. And with that being said, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.